Hey, good morning, this is Jelle, growing bonsai. It's early in the morning and I am going to take some Trident Maple tip cuttings. I'm going to use my proven methods. I can show you this Arakawa maple cutting that I took 2 years ago. It's growing exceptionally well and it was rooted with this method. I'm going to show you the whole process in this video, but I'm also going to show you the outcome. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'll show you exactly what rooted and what didn't root. And that will give you some sort of an idea. Yes, this method actually does work. I'm going to try it this way as well. It is not difficult. You don't need anything special. You can do it. You can propagate Trident Maple through cuttings over the course of a couple of weeks without any special equipment. Trident Maple is of course one of the maples used in bonsai, and in my opinion this might be the best maple for bonsai. Yes, I know, Japanese maple, they have the name of being really good, but these are actually much better. Pruning wounds heal without any problems. The bark grows over it nice and smoothly. The roots, they merge with any rock that you plant them on. They're vigorous growers. They can grow 1 meter, 2 meters very easily. It's early spring. These have started to push 3-4 weeks ago. There's not a lot of growth on them. Now it's early morning. I'm going to clip these tips off. The plant is growing nice and fast. I'm going to favor tips with short internodes where I can, but it doesn't really matter because I'm going to cut them back a lot once they have rooted and have started growing. At this point in time, the length of the cutting is not all that important because I'm all going to cut them to length later on. I'm now just collecting material to plant up. I have a container here with water. I'm going to soak the cuttings in there while I am preparing the rooting hormone and all those things. And then I'll plant them up. I put them in the water just to make sure they don't dry out. Now when it comes to rooting trees, maples are amongst the easiest to root. Taking cuttings of tips like this is actually a no-brainer. It is quite easy to do. Now I've got a couple of things here that I'm using. So I have a normal pot. And in it I have put some coarse substrate. This coarse substrate is not for drainage. It really is to make sure the finer substrate doesn't fall out. Then I'm going to add a layer of normal substrate. And then comes the magic. This is the magic ingredient. It's vermiculite. You can get it in specialized grow stores. And it absorbs a lot of water, yet can also hold a lot of air. And I think that is key to getting these to root. Then of course I use a rooting hormone. It comes in the form of a jelly. It's just a commercial rooting hormone, nothing special. I don't dip my cuttings right in the pot because that will spoil the rooting hormone. Instead I use an old lid and I put a little bit on there. Now how I go ahead and how I do this. I take one of these cuttings and basically I look for a place where there is a node. I remove the leaves at the bottom of the cutting and I clip the end of the cutting. That way I've got a nice fresh cut, which I can now dip into the rooting hormone. I don't want any leaves to be in the ground. They'll just die off and they'll start rotting and they'll just spoil the whole process. Then I'm only going to keep one set of leaves on there and I'm going to clip the rest off. This is basically what you then have at the end. You have a 2-leaf cutting that you can plant in your substrate. You poke a hole, you take the cutting, you slide it in, and basically that's all there is to it. It's not more complex than that. So once you've taken one, you know how to take 50, right? Multiple nodes close to each other. Let's keep them all. Just do it like this. Big leaves, I can just reduce to 1. Now I have to work quickly because the sun has come out and I don't want these to dry out. This is key to good cuttings. Never let your cuttings dry out during the process. So when taking cuttings, make sure you take branches that have matured a little bit. Clipping off the leaves at the base ensures that this doesn't start rotting. A very fresh growing tip I'm taking off as well because it will wilt and fall off quite easily. You can leave 2 nodes, but this is a very long internode, so I'm going to remove this as well. Sometimes you have much bigger leaves like this one. Then you clip off an individual leaf and you just leave 1. I'm working with 2 leaves because rooting most easily occurs here at the node, the point where the leaves were attached. I'm going to clip right at the node, just like that. Then I take my rooting hormone, I dip it, letting it sit for a couple of minutes may help, because then the fresh tissue really absorbs the rooting hormone. And then you just take the cutting and you gently slide it into the hole that you made before. I try to leave the leaves inside the rim of the pot, because that facilitates the next step. Just by watering, secure the roots, secure the cuttings in the pot. This way the substrate will slowly fill the holes. I'm just watering it well and let it sit for a couple of minutes for the water to drain. You put them in a container. There is a suitable substrate. You might add a few hormones, but then you need to protect it from drying out. And this is what I do with this plastic baggie. Really good news. Second week of July, and let me take these cuttings out of the plastic and I'll show you why this is really good news for these tridents. These tip cuttings have developed really well. There you go, look at that. Fresh growth, fresh growth, fresh growth. There's a little bit of fresh growth here. This means that the cuttings have now started to root, and in another 2 weeks or so the roots should be really visible. I'm going to close this up a little bit, but I'm going to leave it open so the cuttings can dry out a little bit more, get used to the drier air outside. Really great news. Right, last week of July. Will you look at that? Roots are popping through the substrate, through the pot, growing out at the bottom. Now, out of curiosity, I'm just going to check how many have rooted. So I'm just going to pop them out. I'm going to see how many have rooted. If you do this at home, don't take them out. Just leave them in the pot for the rest of the season, and only in springtime, when the buds start to swell, take them out. Because this is a bit of a risk. I'm going to damage some roots. Some of them will break off. But hey, that's what I do for you. Now, this was not very clean way of doing it. But well, they're out of the pot, right? So, this is one with a very nice root. Let's take another one. That's 2 with another very nice root. 3 with another very nice set of roots. 4 with another very nice set of roots. 5 nice roots. Come on, I have more. 6 with a good root, and I think I just broke a root, but let's see, maybe there's something more hidden in all this substrate that I just tossed out. Yeah, 7. Where does this root go? There's a big root here in the pot. Come on. Yeah, there you go. This is actually a really nice one. Look at how nicely it's 4 roots. The rest, no, there's no other ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, I don't know how many I tried to root, but this must be nearly all of them that rooted. Now, this is just a container in which I just sometimes pop cuttings and everything, and I just pulled out a big yew cutting and that I planted up, and I'm making a video of it. This is Salix. I don't really want to keep that, and this is a dead plant that I also don't want to keep. It's too bad. Look, this had a very nice flat nabari already. Anyway, this is just pure compost. And what I'm going to do, I'm not going to use that. I'm just going to plant them. So I'll make a flat planting bed in the corner, keep some of the substrate to the side, and then I'll just take my cuttings and I say, okay, this is a cutting. It has nice spread out roots already. Make a little bit of a mound, spread the roots out over it like that, and then I just add a handful of substrate. That's one. Next. This one is not so nice and evenly rooted, but still, there's 4 roots. Can make a little mound again. Push the roots over it in a nice radial fashion, and add a little bit of substrate. There we go, 2. So all of these except for 1 have been potted up. This one I'm actually going to use. I might do a little video on growing one of these out from a cutting. With that, that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Do give it a try. These of course are now going to be watered, and I'll put them in semi-shade to further develop, and later this summer I'll just put them in full sun. While we look at that, that's not even 2 weeks, and you see fresh growth everywhere on these tips. This worked out really, really well. Thank you for watching. This was Jelle and Growing Bonsai.